My name is Emma Miller. I am 27 years old and I live in Oakville. I knew something was wrong the second I unlocked the front door. The house was too quiet. Usually, there was the click-clack of claws on the hardwood, the soft thud of a tail hitting the wall, the happy whine of Jasper, my golden retriever mix, waiting for me. He was my anchor. He was my only comfort in a house that often felt like a war zone. Today, there was nothing. Just a heavy, suffocating silence. I dropped my keys in the bowl. "Jasper," I called out. My voice shook a little. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up at me. She didn't even blink. "Where is he?" I asked. My stomach twisted into a knot. She took a sip of her coffee and said it like she was talking about the weather. "We sold him. Your sister's kids needed new phones. They're expensive, Emma. You know how hard it is for her." I froze. I couldn't breathe. The air left my lungs. They didn't just give him away. They traded my best friend, a living, breathing soul, for gadgets. For iPhones my nieces would crack in a week. At that moment, the daughter I tried so hard to be died right there in the hallway. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? To understand why my mother could sit there and drink her coffee while my world fell apart, you have to understand my role in this house. I am not a daughter to them. I am a utility. I am like the refrigerator or the washing machine. You only notice me when I stop working. My name is Emma Miller. I am 27 years old. I have a job. I pay my bills. I help with the rent. But in this house, I am invisible. I grew up being the fixer. If something was broken, Emma fixed it. If bills were late, Emma paid them. If my parents argued, Emma was the mediator. If my sister, Sarah, had a crisis, which was every other Tuesday, Emma had to drop everything to help her. Sarah is 2 years older than me. She was the golden child. She was loud, demanding, and dramatic. My parents loved it. They fed off her energy. When Sarah walked into a room, the air changed. Everyone had to look at her. Everyone had to listen to her. I was the opposite. I was quiet. I was steady. I kept my head down and did what I was told. I thought that if I was good enough, if I was helpful enough, they would love me. I thought that if I carried enough of their burdens, they would eventually look at me and say, "Thank you, Emma, we appreciate you." That moment never came. I remember my high school graduation. I was valedictorian. I had worked so hard. I studied late into the night while my parents watched TV. I cooked dinner while Sarah was out with her friends. I thought, this is it. This is my moment. On the morning of the ceremony, Sarah called. She had a flat tire. She was crying hysterically. My father looked at me in my cap and gown. He didn't say, "I'm proud of you." He tossed me his car keys. "Go get your sister," he said. "She's stranded." "But Dad," I said. "The ceremony starts in an hour." "Family comes first, Emma," my mother snapped. "Don't be selfish. Your sister is scared." I went. I changed the tire. I got grease on my graduation dress. We missed the beginning of the ceremony. I missed walking across the stage when they called my name. When we finally got there, my parents didn't apologize to me. They hugged Sarah. They asked if she was okay. They bought her ice cream because she had a traumatic morning. I stood there in my stained dress, holding my diploma case that I had to pick up from a cardboard box later, and I felt entirely alone. That was my life. My mother manipulated through guilt. She was a master at it. "After everything we've done for you," she would say, "we put a roof over your head. We fed you." She made basic parenting sound like a heroic sacrifice that I owed her a debt for. If I ever tried to say no, she would clutch her chest. She would cry. She would say I was breaking her heart. My father was different. He didn't use guilt. He used dismissal. If I tried to talk to him about my day, he would turn up the volume on the TV. If I told him I was struggling, he would tell me to toughen up. "You're too sensitive," he would say. "Stop making a big deal out of nothing." But if Sarah had a problem, if Sarah needed money, if Sarah needed a babysitter for her 3 kids, then suddenly it was a crisis. Then it was an emergency. Sarah had 3 kids, my nieces. I loved them, but they were becoming just like her. Entitled, loud, demanding, Sarah was always struggling. She had a new phone every year, but she couldn't pay her electric bill. She had designer purses, but she needed my parents to buy groceries for the kids. And who paid for it? Often it was me. I worked as a graphic designer. I made decent money, but I stayed at home to save for a house of my own. Or that was the plan. In reality, my money went into the family pot. "Emma, can you cover the electric bill this month? Your dad's hours got cut." "Emma, we need to fix the boiler. Can you transfer some money?" Emma, Sarah needs help with the kids' school supplies. I gave and I gave. I thought I was buying love. I thought I was buying my place in the family. Then came Jasper. I found him 2 years ago. He was a stray, wandering near my office building. He was skinny, dirty, and scared. His golden fur was matted with mud. I sat on the sidewalk for an hour, holding out a piece of my sandwich. He finally came to me. He licked my hand. His eyes were big and brown and full of a sadness that I recognized. I took him home. My mother hated him instantly. "A dog," she screeched. "We don't need another mouth to feed, it's dirty. It's going to shed everywhere." "I'll take care of him," I promised. "I'll pay for his food, I'll clean up after him, you won't even know he's here." I named him Jasper. Jasper was the first living thing in that house that looked at me with love. When I came home from work, tired and drained, Jasper didn't ask me for money. He didn't ask me to fix anything. He didn't tell me I was selfish. He just wagged his tail. He leaned his heavy head against my leg. He let out a long sigh that seemed to say, "You're home, I'm safe, you're safe." For 2 years, Jasper was my shield. When my mother started yelling about how I wasn't doing enough, I would go to my room and hug Jasper. When my sister called demanding free babysitting, I would take Jasper for a long walk. He was my anchor. He kept me sane. He was the only one who listened to me. I would talk to him late at night. I would tell him about my dreams. I would tell him how much I wanted to leave this house. He would look at me with those soulful eyes, and I felt understood. My family knew this. They saw how much I loved him. They saw that he was the one thing that was purely mine. They didn't like it. My mother would complain that I spent too much time with the dog. "You care more about that beast than your own family," she would say. My sister would roll her eyes when I talked about him. "It's just a dog, Emma, get a life." They were jealous. Not because they wanted the dog, but because the dog made me happy. And when I was happy, I was less useful to them. When I had Jasper, I had a reason to say no. I had a reason to leave the house. I had a boundary. They hated that boundary. I should have seen it coming. I should have known they would come for him. But I never thought they would be this cruel. I never thought they would sell a living creature just to buy electronics. I was wrong. I stood in the kitchen, staring at my mother. The silence after she spoke was heavy. It felt like the air had turned into concrete. "We sold him. Your sister's kids needed new phones." The words bounced around my skull. They didn't make sense. It was like she was speaking a foreign language. You sold him," I whispered. My voice was barely a sound. My mother put her phone down on the table with a sharp click. She looked annoyed. She looked like I was interrupting her relaxation time. "Don't look at me like that, Emma," she said. Her voice was sharp. It was a practical decision. Sarah called this morning. Her oldest, Mia, broke her phone again. And the twins have been begging for upgrades. You know how kids are. They get made fun of if they don't have the latest thing. I felt my hands start to shake. "You sold my dog for iPhones." "It wasn't just about the phones," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "We got $500 for him. That dog was a purebred or close enough. Sarah needed the money. It's been a hard month for her." "He was my dog," I said. My voice was getting louder. "He wasn't yours to sell. I paid for his food. I paid for his vet bills. He was mine." My father walked into the kitchen then. He was holding a newspaper. He looked at me, then at my mother. He knew exactly what was happening. "Lower your voice, Emma," he said. He didn't look at me. He walked to the fridge and opened it. "The neighbors will hear you." "I don't care about the neighbors," I screamed. "Where is he? Who did you sell him to?" My father grabbed a beer and closed the fridge. He leaned against the counter and shrugged. "Some guy from the internet," he said. "Came and picked him up an hour ago. Nice guy, had a truck." "You let a stranger take him?" I felt sick, physically sick. "Did you even check if he was a good person? Did you check where he was going?" "He paid cash," my father said simply. "That's all that matters." I looked at them, really looked at them. They were my parents. They were the people who were supposed to protect me. And they stood there, calm and indifferent, while my heart was breaking. This wasn't an impulse decision. They had planned this. Sarah must have called in the morning. They must have discussed it over breakfast. They probably took photos of Jasper while I was at work. They posted an ad. They negotiated a price. All while I was sitting at my desk, thinking about coming home to walk him. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out blindly. It was a text from Sarah. It was a picture. It was a photo of her 3 kids, smiling wide, holding up brand new iPhone boxes. The caption read, "Thanks for the help, Auntie M. Kids are so happy, LOL." The LOL hit me like a physical slap. She knew. She knew exactly where the money came from. She knew the price of those phones was my best friend, and she was laughing about it. She sent me a picture, I said, holding up the phone. My hand was trembling so hard the screen was blurry. She thinks it's funny, my mother sighed. She stood up and walked over to the sink to rinse her cup. Oh, stop it, Emma, she said. You're being dramatic. Sarah is just happy the kids are happy. You should be happy for them too, you're their aunt. I should be happy you kidnapped my dog. We didn't kidnap him, my mother said. We rehomed him, it's better this way. That dog was too big for this house anyway. He took up too much space. He shed on the carpet, it was time for him to go. He was the only thing I loved in this house, I said. Tears were finally starting to spill over, I couldn't stop them. He was the only one who loved me. My mother spun around, her face was red. How dare you, she hissed. We love you, we feed you, we let you live here. And this is how you repay us, by screaming at us over an animal. It's just a dog, Emma, my father added. He took a sip of his beer. You can get another one, or get a hamster, something cheaper. They didn't get it. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't care. It wasn't about the animal, it was about what he represented. He was mine, he was my comfort, he was my boundary. By selling him, they were sending a message. A clear, brutal message. You own nothing, you are nothing. Your happiness does not matter, your feelings do not matter. Only Sarah matters. Only we matter. I looked at my father drinking his beer. I looked at my mother wiping down the counter as if she hadn't just destroyed my life. I realized then that I hated them. It wasn't a flash of anger. It wasn't a temporary temper tantrum. It was a cold, hard realization. I hated them. I hated their selfishness. I hated their cruelty. I hated the way they looked at me like I was a broken appliance that was making too much noise. I want his name, I said. I wiped my face. My voice was steady now. I want the name of the man you sold him to. I didn't ask for his name, my father said. He gave me the cash, took the dog, and left. Deal done. You have to have a number, I said. You texted him. I deleted the thread, my father said. He looked bored. Stop it, Emma. It's done. Go wash your face. Dinner is in an hour. He turned his back on me. He walked into the living room and turned on the TV. My mother went back to the table and picked up her phone. She started scrolling again. They were done with the conversation. They were done with me. I stood there for one more second, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. Then I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I walked down the hallway to my bedroom. My legs felt heavy, like I was wading through deep water. Every step was a struggle. I reached my door and pushed it open. Usually, this was the best moment of my day. Usually, I would open this door and Jasper would be there. He would be lying on his bed or waiting by the window. He would jump up, his tail thumping against the dresser, his whole body wiggling with joy. Today, the room was still. It was dead silent. I walked inside and closed the door behind me. I leaned back against the wood and just looked. In the corner, his crate was there. The door was open. It was empty. His blanket, the blue fleece one he loved to bundle up under, was still inside. It still had the indent of his body. It looked like he had just gotten up and walked away. His water bowl was dry. They must have dumped it out. His leash was hanging on the hook by the closet, the red nylon leash we used for our walks. I walked over to the corner. I knelt down on the floor. I reached out and touched the blanket. It was cold. I picked up his favorite toy. It was a stuffed hedgehog that had lost one eye and most of its stuffing. He carried it everywhere. He slept with it. It was shoved into the corner between the crate and the wall like it was trash, like it was garbage. I brought the toy to my face. It smelled like him. It smelled like earth and dog shampoo and comfort. The smell hit me like a physical blow. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I curled up on the floor, holding the hedgehog, and I stared at the empty crate. I waited for the tears to come back. I waited for the sobbing. But the tears didn't come. Instead, a strange coldness settled over me. I lay there on the floor and replayed the last 10 minutes in my head. We sold him. Your sister needed phones. It's just a dog. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to please them. I thought about the money I had given them. Thousands of dollars over the years. My savings, my hard work. I thought about the time. The hours spent listening to my mother complain. The hours spent fixing my father's mistakes. The hours spent babysitting Sarah's kids so she could go to parties. I had given them everything I had. I had emptied myself out for them. And in return, they took the one thing I asked them to leave alone. They didn't just sell a dog. They sold my trust. They sold my loyalty. They sold their relationship with me for $500. That was my value to them. $500. I looked at the empty crate again. If I stayed here, this would never stop. If I let this slide, if I cried and then eventually forgave them like I always did, they would do it again. Next time it would be my car, or my savings account, or my sanity. They would strip me down until there was nothing left of me. The silence in the room wasn't peaceful anymore. It was suffocating. But inside that silence, I found something new. I found rage. Not the hot, screaming rage I had felt in the kitchen. This was different. This was a cold, sharp rage. It was quiet. It was focused. It was the rage of someone who realizes they have nothing left to lose. I sat up. I placed the hedgehog on my bed. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to get my dog back. And then, I was going to burn the bridge to this family so thoroughly that they would never be able to cross it again. I stood up, I wiped my face. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were red, but my jaw was set. I looked different. I looked harder. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the daughter they could push around. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. I sat down and cracked my knuckles. Okay, I whispered to the empty room. Let's find you. I knew my father. He was lazy. He wouldn't have posted ads on 5 different sites. He wouldn't have interviewed buyers. He would have taken the path of least resistance. He said he sold him to a guy on the internet. That meant Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Those were the only 2 sites my father knew how to use. I started with Facebook. I went to my father's profile. It was locked down, but I was friends with him. I checked his recent activity. Nothing. He was smart enough not to post it on his main wall. I checked the local buy, sell, trade groups for our town. I scrolled through listings of used lawnmowers, baby clothes, and old tires. Nothing. I checked the groups for the neighboring towns. Nothing. I switched to Craigslist. I searched golden retriever. I searched dog. I searched free to good home, knowing my father, he might have listed it as cheap just to move him fast. I scrolled for an hour. My eyes were burning. The screen was the only light in the room. My door was locked. I could hear the TV downstairs. I could hear my father laughing at a sitcom. The sound made my blood boil, but I forced myself to focus. Focus, Emma, find him. I expanded my search radius. 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, and then I saw it. A listing posted 4 hours ago. Golden mix. Male, 3 years old, great temperament, $500, must go today. There was no photo, just text. The location was listed as my town. The description was brief, but there was one detail that made my heart stop. Comes with blue fleece blanket. My father had sold the blanket too, but he had left it in the crate. No, we had 2 blue blankets. One in the crate, one we kept in the car. He must have given the guy the car blanket. I looked at the contact info. It was a generic email relay, but there was a phone number buried in the text. I didn't recognize the number. It wasn't my father's cell. I looked closer. It was my father's work cell number. The one he thought I didn't know. He had posted the ad from his work phone so my mother wouldn't see the notifications on his personal iPad. This was it, but the ad was marked deleted by author. That meant the sale was done. The listing was gone. I didn't have the buyer's info. I only had the proof that my father sold him. I felt a wave of panic. How do I find the buyer? I went back to the Facebook groups. I started searching for ISO Golden Retriever, in search of. Maybe someone had been looking. Then I had an idea. If the guy bought him today, maybe he was posting about his new dog. I searched new dog in the local community groups. I searched adopted. Nothing. I sat back, rubbing my temples. Think like a person who just bought a dog. You buy a dog, you need supplies. You might ask for recommendations for vets. You might ask for advice. I went to the dog owners of my county group. I sorted by newest. And there it was, posted 30 minutes ago. A grainy photo of a golden retriever sitting in the back of a pickup truck. He looked scared. He was looking at the camera with wide, confused eyes. The caption read, "Just picked up this guy. Previous owner said they were moving and couldn't take him. Seems sweet but a little nervous. Anyone know a good mobile groomer? He smells like cigarettes." My father smoked. The house always smelled like cigarettes. It was Jasper. I knew that face. I knew that white patch on his chest. I clicked on the profile. The name was Mike Henderson. He lived in the next town over, about 40 minutes away. I didn't hesitate. I didn't send a message. I didn't wait. I grabbed my keys. I grabbed Jasper's leash from the hook. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark. I crept down the stairs. The living room light was flickering against the wall. I could hear my mother snoring in her chair. I slipped out the front door. My hands were shaking as I started my car. I punched the name Mike Henderson into my GPS on my phone. A generic address popped up. It was a guess, but it was a start. I drove fast, probably too fast. I rehearsed what I was going to say. I would offer him double. I would offer him everything in my savings account. I would beg. I would threaten. I didn't care. I wasn't leaving without my dog. The drive felt like it took 10 years. I pulled into a driveway of a small ranch house. There was a pickup truck in the driveway, the same truck from the photo. I killed the engine. I got out. I walked up to the front door. It was 9:30 p.m. It was late to be knocking on a stranger's door. I knocked anyway, hard. A minute passed, then the porch light flicked on. The door opened. A man stood there. He was big, wearing a flannel shirt. He looked confused. "Yeah," he said. "Can I help you?" "You bought a dog today," I said. My voice was breathless. "A golden retriever mix from a man in Oakville." The man's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, who are you?" "I'm his daughter," I said. "He stole that dog. He sold him without my permission. That dog is my baby. He is my everything." I held up the leash. My hands were trembling. "Please," I said. Tears were running down my face now. "Please, I have cash. I'll pay you whatever you want. I just want him back." The man looked at me. He looked at the leash in my hand. He looked at the desperation in my face. He let out a sigh. He rubbed the back of his neck. "He told me he was moving to Florida," the man said. "Said the dog needed a yard." "He lied," I said. "He sold him to buy iPhones." The man shook his head. "Unbelievable." He turned and shouted into the house. "Babe, bring the dog." A woman appeared in the hallway behind him. She was holding Jasper by the collar. As soon as Jasper saw me, he froze. "Jasper," I whispered. He let out a bark, a loud, sharp bark. He wrenched himself free from the woman's grip. He launched himself at the storm door. He was scratching at the glass, whining, crying. The man opened the door. Jasper hit my chest like a cannonball. I fell back onto the porch steps, but I didn't care. He was licking my face. He was crying, that high-pitched, happy cry that dogs do. He was wrapping his paws around me. I buried my face in his fur. He smelled like cigarettes and fear, but he was here. He was safe. "I've got you," I sobbed. "I've got you, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I looked up at the man. I reached for my wallet. "How much?" "I have 500 right now. I can go to an ATM." The man looked at his wife. The wife was wiping her eyes. "Keep your money," the man said. "I'm not taking money for a stolen dog. That's messed up." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Take him home," he said, "and keep him away from your dad." "I will," I said. I stood up, clipping the leash onto Jasper's collar. The click of the metal was the best sound I had ever heard. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you so much." I walked Jasper to the car. He jumped into the passenger seat like he had done 1,000 times before. I got in and locked the doors. I looked at him. He was panting, looking at me with adoration. "We're going home," I told him, "but not to stay." I started the engine. I wasn't just bringing a dog home. I was bringing back a war declaration. I drove back to my parents' house. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by that cold resolve again. I pulled into the driveway. The house was dark now. They had gone to bed. I unlocked the front door. I walked in with Jasper. My mother must have heard the door. She was standing at the top of the stairs in her bathrobe. "Emma," she called out. "Where have you been? It's almost 10 o'clock." I walked to the bottom of the stairs. Jasper stood next to me, growling low in his throat. He knew who she was. He knew what she had done. My mother saw him. She froze. Her hand went to her mouth. "How?" she stammered. "How did you?" "I found him," I said. My voice was calm, deadly calm. "I bought back what you sold." "You went to a stranger's house at this hour," she shrieked. "Are you crazy? You could have been killed. And bring that dog back in here. Your father said." "I don't care what he said," I interrupted her. I looked her dead in the eye. "Go to bed, Mom," I said. She opened her mouth to argue, but something in my face stopped her. She had never seen me look like this. She had never seen the utility, the appliance, speak back. She turned and went into her bedroom, slamming the door. I walked Jasper to my room. I put his water bowl down and filled it. I put his toy back in the crate. He curled up on his bed, letting out a long, heavy sigh. I sat on my bed and looked at him. I had won the battle, but the war was just starting. They thought this was over. They thought I would yell a little, bring the dog back, and things would go back to normal. They thought I would go back to paying the bills and fixing their problems. They were wrong. I reached for my laptop again. I logged into my bank account. It was time to show them what happens when the utility stops working. The next morning, The house was quiet in a way that felt dangerous. It wasn't the peaceful silence of an empty house. It was the silence of a held breath before a scream. I woke up with Jasper heavy on my feet. For a second, I forgot. I reached down, felt his fur, and the memory of the night before rushed back. The empty crate, the drive, the stranger's house, the look on my mother's face. I wasn't afraid anymore. That was the strange part. Usually, the morning after an argument, I would be a nervous wreck. I would be rehearsing apologies. I would be trying to figure out how to make them like me again. Today, I just felt cold. I got dressed slowly. I could hear movement downstairs, the heavy footsteps of my father, the clinking of spoons. I checked my phone. It said no service. That was odd. I was on the family plan. I paid a third of the bill every month, transferring the money to my dad, but the account was in his name. I tried to connect to the Wi-Fi. Incorrect password. They had changed it. I almost laughed. It was so petty. It was so childish. They couldn't control me with guilt anymore, so they were trying to control me with inconvenience. They thought that if they cut off my internet and my calls, I would come crawling downstairs, begging for the password, apologizing for being a bad daughter. I walked downstairs. Jasper stayed close to my leg, growling low when we reached the kitchen. My parents and Sarah were there. Sarah must have come over early. They were sitting around the island, eating pancakes. They looked like a happy family in a commercial. They stopped eating when I walked in. "Morning," Sarah said. She had a smirk on her face. She was tapping her long fingernails on her new iPhone, the iPhone my dog paid for. "Mom says you had a little adventure last night." "I got my dog back," I said simply. I walked to the fridge to get water. "You stole him back," my father said without looking up. "I had a deal with that man." "It was an illegal sale," I said. "You sold stolen property." "Property?" My mother laughed. It was a harsh sound. "He's a dog, Emma, and you live under our roof. Everything under this roof is ours." "Not anymore," I said. My father slammed his fork down. "Look, we're done with the drama. You want to keep the mutt? Fine, but there are consequences. You don't get to disrespect us and live here for free." "I pay rent," I reminded him. "I pay for the utilities." "Not enough," he spat. "We changed the Wi-Fi. We cut your line from the phone plan this morning. You want to be an adult, go get your own contract. And don't expect us to include you in dinner tonight," my mother added. "If you're going to act like a stranger, we'll treat you like one." They looked so smug. They thought they had trapped me. They thought I would panic. They knew I needed my phone for work. They knew I needed the internet. They forgot one thing. They forgot who actually managed the money in this house. For 5 years, my parents had been bad with technology. So, they had me set up a joint bank account. It was supposed to be for household expenses. My paycheck went into my personal account, but I transferred a huge chunk into the joint account every month to pay the mortgage, the electric, the water, and the credit cards. My father's pension check went in there too. But mostly, it was my money that kept the balance positive. Crucially, because my father was lazy, he had made me a primary account holder so I could sign checks and talk to the bank without bugging him. I looked at them. I looked at Sarah playing on her phone. I looked at my dad eating pancakes paid for with my money. "Okay," I said. "Okay," Sarah asked. "That's it, you're not going to cry." "No," I said. "I'm going to go to work." I went back upstairs. I packed my laptop. I grabbed my bag. I drove to a coffee shop with free Wi-Fi. I bought a black coffee and sat down. My hands were steady. I logged into the bank's website. I pulled up the joint account. Balance, $4,250. My father's pension had just hit yesterday. My contribution for the mortgage was in there too. I looked at the transaction history. I saw the withdrawal for the family phone plan. I saw the charges for Sarah's online shopping spree she clearly used my mom's card for. I took a deep breath. I clicked transfer. I selected the entire balance. Every single cent. Destination, my personal savings account, the one they didn't have access to. I clicked submit. Transfer successful. The joint account balance blinked to $0. Then, I went to the bill pay section. I unlinked the electric bill. I unlinked the water bill. I unlinked the internet bill. I unlinked the mortgage autopay. I removed my email from the notifications. I sat back and took a sip of my coffee. They wanted to cut me off. They wanted to play games with money. Fine, they had cut off my phone service. I had just cut off their life support. My phone, which was only working on Wi-Fi now, started to buzz with emails confirming the transfers. I felt a dark sense of satisfaction. In about 3 days, the mortgage payment would bounce. In a week, the electric company would send a past due notice. And when they went to the grocery store today, when my mother tried to buy her expensive wine and Sarah tried to buy more toys for the kids. Card declined. I closed my laptop. I wasn't done. I drove to the phone store. I got my own plan, my own number. Then I went to work. I sat at my desk and did my job. I didn't answer the messages that started flooding in around noon. First, it was my mother. Emma, why is the card not working? I'm at the checkout. Then my father, what did you do to the account? Then Sarah, you selfish witch, fix it now. Mom is crying. I deleted them all. They had spent years telling me I was worthless. They had spent years telling me I didn't contribute enough. Today, they were finding out exactly what I was worth. When I got home that evening, the atmosphere had shifted from smugness to panic. I pulled into the driveway. My father's truck was there. Sarah's car was there. I took a deep breath. I turned to Jasper in the passenger seat. Stay here, buddy, I said. I'll be right back. I walked into the house. It was chaos. My mother was sobbing at the kitchen table. My father was pacing back and forth, his face purple with rage. Sarah was screaming into her phone, probably at her husband, complaining about me. When I walked in, the room went silent. You, my father roared. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You put that money back right now, that is theft. It's not theft, I said calmly. It's a joint account. My name is on it. And considering I've put in about 80% of the money in there over the last 5 years, I was just taking back my investment. We can't pay the mortgage, my mother wailed. We can't buy food. You have Sarah, I said, looking at my sister. Sarah got $500 for my dog. Surely she can help you with groceries. Sarah glared at me. I spent that money. The kids needed cases for the phones. Well, I said, that sounds like a you problem. You are ungrateful, my father spat. After everything we did for you, we raised you. You did the bare minimum required by law, I said. And you made me pay for it every single day. I didn't stop walking. I went past them up the stairs. I went to my room. I pulled my big duffel bag out of the closet. I didn't pack everything. I didn't want everything. I took my clothes. I took my laptop. I took my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, passport, which I kept in a lockbox because I never trusted them. I looked around the room. It was the room I had grown up in. The walls were painted a pale yellow I had picked out when I was 12. I felt nothing for it. It wasn't a sanctuary, it was a cage. My mother appeared in the doorway. She wasn't crying anymore. Now she looked desperate. Emma, she said, her voice was trembling. Emma, please, be reasonable, we can talk about this. Just transfer the money back, we're family. I didn't look at her. I kept folding my shirts. We sold the dog because we needed the money, she lied. We were desperate, your father's pride. He didn't want to ask you for more. You didn't ask, I said. You stole. We can fix this, she said. We'll apologize. Is that what you want? An apology? I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry. It was the most hollow apology I had ever heard. She was only sorry because the ATM had stopped dispensing cash. I'm leaving, I said. You can't leave, she said. She stepped into the room. Where will you go? You need us. Who will take care of you? I zipped up the bag. I swung it over my shoulder. I've been taking care of myself since I was 10 years old, I said. And for the last 5 years, I've been taking care of all of you too. I walked past her. She tried to grab my arm. I pulled away sharply. Don't touch me, I said. My father was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. He was blocking the door. If you walk out that door, he threatened, don't you think about coming back. I will change the locks. You will be dead to us. I looked at him. I looked at the man who had tossed me his keys on my graduation day instead of hugging me. I looked at the man who sold my best friend to a stranger. Dad, I said, I was dead to you the moment I stopped being useful. You just didn't realize it until the money stopped. I stared him down. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. I didn't look down. He saw something in my eyes. Maybe he saw the truth. Maybe he saw that he had no power left. He stepped aside. I opened the front door. The cool night air hit my face. It tasted like freedom. I walked to my car. I threw the bag in the back. I got in the driver's seat. Jasper licked my hand. I didn't look back at the house. I didn't look at the window to see if they were watching. I put the car in reverse and backed out of the driveway. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Tessa, my coworker. Key is under the mat. Guest room is ready. Come home, I drove. I cried for the first 10 minutes, not because I was sad, but because the relief was so overwhelming it felt like physical pain. The pressure on my chest, the pressure I had lived with for 27 years was gone. I was homeless. I had burned every bridge, but I had my dog. I had my money. And for the first time, I had my life. Tessa's apartment was small, but it was warm. It smelled like vanilla candles and peace. When I arrived, she didn't ask questions. She just hugged me, ordered pizza, and let Jasper sleep on her couch. For 2 days, I just existed. I went to work, I came back to Tessa's, and I slept. I ignored the hundreds of calls and texts from my family. They cycled between begging, threatening, and gaslighting. On the 3rd day, I knew I had to handle the loose ends. I still had some stuff at the house. And they were threatening to call the police on me for theft regarding the bank transfer, even though it was legal. I needed backup. I called Aunt Betty. Betty was my mother's older sister. She was the black sheep of the family, but in the best way. She was a lawyer. She was fierce, successful, and she had never tolerated my parents' nonsense. They were terrified of her. She lived 3 hours away. I called her and told her everything. I told her about the dog, the phones, the bank account. There was a long silence on the other end. They did what? Betty's voice was low and dangerous. They sold Jasper, I whispered. Pack a bag, Emma, Betty said. I'm coming down. You don't have to, I'm coming down, she repeated. Meet me at their house at noon tomorrow. Bring the dog. The next day, I pulled up to my parents' house. Betty's black Mercedes was already there, parked right in the middle of the driveway like a tank. Betty was standing on the porch. She was wearing a sharp suit and sunglasses. She looked like a general inspecting the battlefield. I got out with Jasper. Betty took off her sunglasses. She looked at the dog, then at me. She hugged me so hard my ribs cracked. You look tired, she said. I am, I said. Well, wake up, she said. We're going in. She didn't knock. She opened the door and walked in. Hello, she boomed. Family meeting. My parents were in the living room. Sarah was there too. They jumped up when they saw Betty. Betty, my mother said, looking nervous. What are you doing here? I'm here to help you pack, Betty said pleasantly. Pack, my father asked. Well, Emma is moving out, Betty said. Permanently. And since you've threatened to call the police on her for accessing her own money, I'm here to represent her legally. Betty slammed a file folder onto the coffee table. I've looked at the bank records, Betty said. Emma has deposited over $100,000 into that joint account over the last 5 years. You two have contributed. Significantly less. If you want to go to court, we can go to court. I will sue you for unjust enrichment, emotional distress, and theft of the dog, and I will win. My father paled. He knew Betty didn't bluff. Now, Betty continued, Emma is going to go upstairs and get the rest of her things. You are going to sit here. If anyone says a word to her, I will personally audit your taxes from 1995 to present. Do we understand each other? The room was silent. Good, Betty said. She turned to me and winked. Go on, sweetie, take your time. I went upstairs. I could hear my mother trying to whisper to Betty downstairs. She's stealing from us, Betty. She left us with nothing. She left you with exactly what you earned. Betty's voice carried up the stairs. Nothing but family. Don't use that word, Betty cut her off. Her voice was ice cold. I saw the text messages, Linda. I saw what you said about the dog. That's not family, that's cruelty. You broke that girl's heart for a couple of cell phones. You're lucky she only took the money. If it were me, I'd have burned the house down. I packed the rest of my books. I took my winter coat. I took the photo of my grandmother. I walked back downstairs. My family was sitting on the couch, looking small, defeated. My father wouldn't look at me. My mother was crying silently, but it was the crying of someone who got caught, not someone who was sorry. I'm done, I said to Betty. Excellent, Betty said. She picked up her sunglasses. She turned to my parents one last time. Don't contact her, Betty said. Don't go to her work, don't call her. If she wants to speak to you, she will reach out. If you bother her, you deal with me, and you know you can't afford me. We walked out. We got into our cars. As I drove away, following Betty's Mercedes, I looked in the rearview mirror. The house got smaller and smaller. It was just a building now, wood and brick. It held no power over me. Betty honked her horn twice, a victory sound. I smiled. I reached over and scratched Jasper's ears. We're free, I told him. It took me 2 weeks to find a place. It wasn't fancy. It was a second-floor apartment in an older building on the edge of town. The floors creaked, the radiator clanked in the middle of the night, and the view was of a brick wall. But it was mine. My name was on the lease. My key opened the door. For the first time in my life, I bought groceries just for me. I bought the expensive cheese because I wanted it. I bought the cereal my father hated. I bought Jasper a new bed, a huge orthopedic memory foam one that cost way too much, but I didn't care. The first night in the apartment was strange. I kept waiting for someone to yell. I kept waiting for a crisis. I sat on the floor of the living room, I didn't have a couch yet, and ate pizza with Tessa and Betty. To new beginnings, Betty said, raising a plastic cup of wine. To freedom, Tessa added. To Jasper, I said. Jasper barked. He was exploring the corners, sniffing everything. He seemed to know that this was permanent. He wasn't anxious anymore. He didn't pace. He settled down right in the middle of the room and fell asleep, belly up. A month later, a letter arrived in the mail. It was my mother's handwriting. I stood by the mailbox, holding the envelope. My heart hammered for a second, an old reflex. I went upstairs and sat at my kitchen table. I opened it. It wasn't an apology. Of course it wasn't. Emma, we hope you are doing well. The house is very quiet without you. Your father's back is acting up again, and it's hard for him to mow the lawn. Sarah is struggling with the kids. The twins miss their aunt. We think enough time has passed. We are willing to forgive your outburst and the money situation if you come home for Sunday dinner. Let's put this behind us. We are a family, and families forgive. Love, Mom. I read it twice. We are willing to forgive you. They still thought they were the victims. They still thought I was the one who had sinned. They wanted me back not because they missed me, but because the lawn needed mowing and the bills needed paying. They wanted the utility back. I looked at the love, Mom, at the bottom. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt nothing. It was like reading a letter from a stranger. I stood up. I walked to the drawer in the kitchen where I kept my junk, batteries, rubber bands, takeout menus. I put the letter in the drawer. I didn't throw it away. I wanted to keep it. I wanted to keep it as a reminder of who they really were. Whenever I felt lonely, whenever I started to think maybe I should call them, I would read that letter. I would read the part where they offered to forgive me for saving my own life. I closed the drawer. I walked into the living room. The sun was streaming through the window. Jasper was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. I sat down next to him. I buried my face in his neck. I had lost my parents. I had lost my sister. I had lost the home I grew up in. But I had found myself. I looked around my imperfect, creaky, small apartment. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. It's been 6 months now. I haven't spoken to them. Aunt Betty tells me they are struggling. My father had to go back to work part-time. Sarah had to sell the new phones to pay a credit card bill. They are living the life they built. I am living mine. I got a promotion at work. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since high school because my mother said it was messy. I have friends, real friends like Tessa, who don't want anything from me other than my company. Tonight, the apartment is quiet. The good kind of quiet. I'm lying in bed. Jasper is beside me, his head resting on my ankles. His breathing is steady and deep. I reach down and stroke his soft ears. They thought they could take you from me, I whisper to him. They thought I was weak. They didn't know who I'd become because of it. Jasper lets out a sleepy sigh. I turn my head and look at the camera. I look at you. I know there are people out there watching this who are stuck. Maybe you're the fixer in your family. Maybe you're the one who pays the bills, who solves the problems, who swallows the insults just to keep the peace. Maybe you think that if you just give a little more, if you just try a little harder, they will finally love you the way you need them to. I need you to hear me. You cannot buy love. You cannot earn respect from people who benefit from your disrespect. When I stopped letting them use me, they stopped loving me. That means they never loved me at all. They only loved what I could do for them. It hurts to realize that. It hurts to walk away. It is terrifying to step out into the dark with nothing but a duffel bag and a dog. But the light on the other side, it is so bright. If you have to choose between your family and your soul, choose your soul. If you have to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your sanity, choose your sanity. And if you ever have to walk away from the people who were supposed to protect you, don't look back, just keep walking. I'm Emma, this is Jasper, and we are finally home. Subscribe for the next story.